You have probably heard that millions of Americans are about to lose their Medicaid. That part is true, but almost everything being said about it online gets the most important piece wrong, for one group in particular, seniors. So here is the truth, plain and direct. The biggest change everyone is scared of, the new work requirement, does not apply to you if you are over 65. You are exempt from it. So why should an older person still pay close attention? Because there are 3 quieter changes buried in this law that absolutely can cost a senior their coverage. And those are the 3 that almost no one is warning you about. Let me walk you through all 3 and exactly how to protect yourself from each. First, quickly, what actually happened so you know this is real and not a rumor. A large federal law passed that cuts more than $600 billion from Medicaid over the next 10 years. To find those savings, the government added new rules that make it harder to get and keep coverage. The official estimate is that close to 8 million people will lose their Medicaid because of it. Now here's the part that matters for you. Most of those people will lose it because of the new work requirement. And that rule is aimed at working age adults, not retirees. If you are 65 or older, you are almost always exempt. So take a breath. The headline is not really about you. But do not close the tab yet, because the 3 things that are about you come next. The first real risk to a senior is not a work rule. It is paperwork. This is the big one, and it is the one that catches the most people. Under the new law, states have to check your eligibility far more often than before, as often as every 6 months instead of once a year, along with more frequent address checks and more forms to fill out. Here is why that is dangerous. When the paperwork goes up, people do not lose coverage because they stopped qualifying. They lose it because a letter went to an old address, or a form sat unopened, or a deadline passed while they were in the hospital. It is called a procedural termination, which is a polite way of saying you were dropped for a missed form, not because you were no longer eligible. For an older person who moves in with family, or spends weeks in a rehab facility, or simply misses one notice in a stack of mail, this is a very real way to lose coverage you are fully entitled to keep. Picture how it happens. A widow in her late 70s has a fall and spends 5 weeks in a rehab center getting back on her feet. While she is away, a renewal notice arrives at her house, lands in a pile of mail, and the deadline quietly passes. She comes home healthy, and a month later, she learns her Medicaid has been canceled. She never stopped qualifying. She simply was not home to open one letter. Turning it back on can take weeks of phone calls and forms, while the bills pile up in the meantime. That is a procedural termination, and it is the single most common way a senior loses coverage they still fully deserve. So here is how you protect yourself from that first risk, and it is simple. Make sure your address on file with Medicaid is current, today, especially if you have moved or are staying somewhere temporarily. Open every single letter that comes from Medicaid or your state health office, even the ones that look like junk, because a renewal notice can look very plain. And if a form comes, respond to it immediately, or call the number on it and ask for help finishing it. If this feels like a lot, ask an adult child or a trusted person to help you watch for these notices. The families who keep their coverage through all of this are simply the ones who never let a renewal slip. The second real risk is aimed at a specific group of seniors, the ones who have both Medicare and Medicaid at the same time. If that is you, you are what is called dually eligible, and you need to hear this. Most people in nursing homes, and many older people living at home, rely on both programs together. Medicare handles the doctor and the hospital. Medicaid quietly fills in the things Medicare does not cover, and that list is bigger than most people realize. Long-term care at home, help with bathing and dressing, dental, vision, hearing aids. Here is the problem. When states are handed a smaller budget, those extra benefits are the easiest ones to cut because they are not the core of the program. So the risk for a dual-eligible senior is not losing Medicaid entirely. It is waking up one month to find that the home aide who helped you, or the dental coverage you counted on, has quietly been scaled back or dropped. To protect yourself there, know exactly what your Medicaid actually pays for right now, before anything changes. Get it in writing if you can. Watch for any notice that a service is being reduced, and understand that you have the right to appeal a cut, in writing, usually within a set number of days. Do not simply accept a reduction letter as final, because many cuts get reversed on appeal, and many more get made simply because no one pushed back. The third risk is slower, but for a homeowner, it is the biggest of all, so stay with me for this one. The same law puts new pressure on how long-term care is funded, and that pressure lands in 2 ways. In the near term, nursing homes and home care agencies are being paid less, which means some facilities will cut services or close their doors, leaving fewer options and longer waits for a bed. That is worth knowing now, while you still have time to research the good facilities in your area, rather than scrambling in a crisis. And further out, starting in a couple of years, the law changes a rule that has protected paid-off homes for a long time. It caps the amount of home value that Medicaid will ignore, and it stops that cap from rising with inflation. In plain terms, in states with expensive housing, some seniors with a valuable paid-off home could find themselves over the limit and denied long-term care coverage unless they plan ahead. If your home has climbed a lot in value, this is a conversation to have early with an elder law attorney, long before you ever need care, because there are legal ways to plan for it, but only if you start in time. So let me pull the real picture together, because it is very different from the scary headline. If you are a senior, you are almost certainly not going to lose your Medicaid because of a work requirement. That fear is aimed at a different group. The real dangers for you are quieter and more ordinary. A missed renewal form, a benefit like home care or dental that gets trimmed when a state runs short. And for a homeowner, a slow squeeze on how long-term care is funded and who qualifies for it. Every one of those is something you can guard against, but only if you know it is coming, which now you do. Here is your short list, the whole video in a few sentences. Keep your address current and never ignore a letter from Medicaid, because paperwork, not work rules, is what drops most seniors. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, learn what your extra benefits are and appeal any cut instead of accepting it. And if you own a home that has grown in value, talk to an elder law attorney about protecting it well before care is ever needed. The people who come through all of this with their coverage intact are not the lucky ones. They are the ones who stayed alert while everyone else was panicking about the wrong thing. A quick but important note. This is general information, not legal or benefits advice, and no substitute for guidance on your own case, because these rules are rolling out in stages and work differently in every state. For your own situation, the best free step is to call your local area agency on aging or a state health insurance assistance program, both of which help seniors with exactly this, at no cost. Use this as your reason to make that call while you have time, so that a change written in a law far away does not quietly take something you depend on before you ever saw it coming.